It's been a while since I sang the Hulk Hogan theme song. Proud to be an American. Um, if I had a silver coin recently for every time I saw something about pensions, cut, restructure, I'd have me quite a few silver coins extra. One of the largest U.S. pension funds is set to cut, drum roll, retiree benefits. Quick, look surprised. Hey, a dark storm is brewing in the world of private pensions, and all hell could break loose when it finally hits, says Zero Hedge. As the Washington Post reports, the Central States Pension Fund, which handles retirement benefits for current and former Teamster Union truck drivers across various states, including Texas, Michigan, Wisconsin, Missouri, New York, and Minnesota, and is one of the largest pension funds in the nation, has filed an application to cut participant benefits, which would be effective July 1st this year, 2016, as it projects it will become officially insolvent by 2025. In 2015, the fund returned minus 0.81%, underperforming the 0.37% return of its benchmark. Over a quarter of a million people depend on their pension being handled by the CSPF. For most, it is their only source of fixed income. Pension funds applying to lower promised benefits is a new development, albeit not unexpected. We've been warning of this issue numerous times in the past, and yes, they have. And I'm sure I have too, because I read every one of these damn stories when it comes across my eyeballs. For many years, there existed federal protections which shielded pensions from being cut. But all that changed in December 2014, when folded neatly into a $1.1 trillion government spending bill known as Omnibus was a proposal to allow multi-employer pension plans to cut benefits so long as they are projected to not run out of money in the next 10 to 20 years. Between rising benefit payouts as participants become eligible, the global financial crisis, and the current interest rate environment, it was certainly just a matter of time before these steps were taken to allow pension plans to cut benefits to stave off insolvency. The Central States Pension Fund is currently paying out $3.46 in pension benefits for every dollar it receives from employers, which has resulted in the fund paying out $2 billion more in benefits than it receives in employer contributions each year. As a result, Thomas Nyan, executive director of the Central States Pension Fund, who I'm sure has a massive salary that isn't getting touched, said that the fund could become insolvent by 2025 if nothing is done. The fund currently pays out $2.8 billion a year in benefits, according to Nyan. And if the plan becomes insolvent, it would overwhelm the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, designed by the government to absorb insolvent plans and continue paying benefits. So if it can't handle one single entity failing, what in the hell is it even doing there in the place? Then again, let's look at our banking system. Your deposits are insured up to $250,000 in an American bank account. And how much is there right now in the backing of the FDIC insurance? 50, 60, 70 billion? That's all? How many deposits are in the American banks? Trillions? So it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent in these insurance coffers. Why the hell is it even there? It can't even absorb the Teamsters restructuring, failing? Wow. The fund currently pays out $2.8 billion a year, benefits going $9 And if the plan becomes insolvent, it would overwhelm the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, who at the end of fiscal 2015 only had $1.9 billion in total assets itself. Incidentally, as we also pointed out last month, the PBGC projects that they will also be insolvent by 2025. It appears there is something very foreboding about that particular year. As the Washington Post writes, Ava Miller, 64, and her husband, Ed Northrup, 68, could see their combined monthly pension income cut to about $3,000 from the nearly $7,000 they receive now, according to a letter they received from Central States in October. If the cuts go through, Miller, who worked as a dispatcher in Flint, Michigan, he been drinking that water? Mr. Miller, you been drinking that water, son? Said they would need to dip into their savings to help cover their $1,300 mortgage payment, heating bills, and trips to visit her 84-year-old mother. Northrup, a retired car hauler, has started applying for truck driving jobs that could supplement their potentially smaller pension payments. What makes the cuts more painful, Miller said, is that she took, it was a she, not a he, took cuts so that the company could continue making contributions to the pension. Quote, I did everything I was supposed to. She, my favorite word, was doing the right thing. Adding that she and her husband made extra payments on their car loan to cut down on their monthly bills after they received letters in October informing them of the potential cuts. All hope is not lost, however. Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders has proposed a bill that would repeal the measure allowing cuts and instead calls for the government to provide assistance to troubled pension funds. In other words, another bailout. So Bernie, Uncle Bernie, if you do that and this pension stays intact and the government has to pay for it, who actually pays for it? The citizens. That's what we call socialism. You know that commercial? The beer commercial? I don't always drink Dos Equis. Or I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink a Dos Equis. Here's Bernie Sanders' version. I don't always drink beer, but when I do, I drink someone else's. Oh, I should be a comedian. And I'd be rolling on the floor laughing if this wasn't so serious. Which brings us to the current juncture where we remind everyone that the government's own safety net, the PBGC, has itself become insolvent, and according to CNN, projects that more than 10% of the roughly 1,400 multi-employer plans, covering more than 1 million workers, fits the current criteria to be able to apply for benefit cuts for participants. Quote, this is going to be a national crisis for hundreds of thousands and eventually millions of retirees and their families. It's going to open the floodgates for other cuts, said Karen Friedman, executive president of the Pension Rights Center. And Zero Hedge says, we can't help but wonder that as more pension funds become insolvent and more participants are forced to take reductions in benefits, whether helicopter money won't soon become a reality for the United States even before it comes one in Japan, especially if it's spun by some opportunistic politicians as the only hope for America's workers to preserve some of their retirement savings. And the thing is, I've said this before, if you haven't seen the documentary, The Secret of Oz, go and watch it. I guarantee it's on YouTube right now. It's like a Money Masters Part 2. The bottom line is, President Abraham Lincoln, the North was running out of precious metals, gold and silver, to pay their troops. The South was running out to pay their troops. Troops don't work for free. Ronald Reagan. Abraham Lincoln created the greenback. It was going to be temporary. It's as good as gold, right? Everyone respect it. We're going to use it. We're not printing bonds and borrowing it into existence. We are just going to print the money and use it and print as much as we need to pay the bills. And then he won the war. And he said, holy crap, that was so good. I think we're going to use that for our system now, going forward. Oh, sorry, got his head blown off. Never mind, we're going to go back to the old central bank way of doing things. We're going to borrow money into existence at interest. So not only do we have to pay it back, you got to pay it back and you got to pay the interest back and you got to make payments on the interest while whoever owns that bond for the next 10, 20, 30 years collects that interest payment every month or whatever the hell it is, or maybe it's yearly, whatever it is. And then they get it paid back in full at the end of the term. If the government printed its own money, backed by nothing even, no gold, no silver even, but didn't borrow it into existence with these bonds, and you just printed the money and used it to pay your bills, there would never, ever, ever again be a recession. You would never have any pension problems. You wouldn't have retirement problems. You wouldn't have Social Security problems. You wouldn't have Medicaid, Medicare problems. You would have none of those. Why? Because the government would be printing its own money to pay its own bills, and those things would all be covered under the government umbrella. And as I've mentioned before, it could even come to the state and local level. So God forbid we have a recessionary time frame, period coming. People are losing their jobs. People are upset. Okay, government agencies, driver's license place, water, whatever, you name it. Across the nation, every government entity, every government building, office, whatever it is, if it's a government facility, hire just a few more people in every facility across the country. We're hiring. Again, it doesn't cost us anything. We're printing the money anyways. So it's not like we have to look at a budget and, we can only really afford to have 10 people working here at this time because our, mandated budget says, such and such, and that's all we can afford. No, actually, we can hire, instead of 10 people, we can now hire 13. Why? Because it doesn't matter if the government's printing money. Pay these bills. Government, Uncle Sam, we now have 3 more people. As you know, we're in a recession. You guys authorized the such and such work act, which, they'll give it some name. The Loving Work Act. Actually, we can't call it the Loving Work Act because everything they name is actually the opposite. So that would mean they hate you, like the Hateful Work Act, which means you're not working. So we'd have to actually do a double reverse flip on that. They have to give it a crappy name, the sorry about your luck work bill, and then the reverse happens because that's the way government is. So it's actually not sorry about your luck work bill. It's the good work bill. Come on down. We got some office space here. Come on in and work. Ooh. Come on down and work here. And again, after the, man, I like swallowed saliva or something. I'm down the wrong hole. How do you even do that? As soon as the recession ends, or as it's ending, the government, again, with all the statistics, even though they rig the statistics, they only rig them when things are bad. When things are good, they're not rigging them. They're going to really show you that things are good. So they wouldn't have to rig the statistics anymore. They could look at the statistics and say, okay, we are seeing the recession ending a little bit, or maybe in Florida, it's definitely ended. Okay, so all Florida, entities, memorandum 579, go ahead and start letting the employees know it's time for them to start looking for other jobs now, and that the government, whatever job, is going to be ending in 6 months or whatever it is. It would be that easy. So you have to ask yourself, if it's that easy, why in the hell isn't the government doing this? It's that freaking easy. Because the bankers own the government. They own the central bank, and their too big to fail banks are all the members that own the central bank. And they are also the ones that lobby the Congress with money. So the Congress, if you want to stay a congressman or woman, senator, whatever the hell you are, you got to play by our rules. And our rules say this is the kind of banking system we want. Don't you dare try and change it, or you won't be a senator anymore. You'll find that you're voted out somehow mysteriously in the next election. Take care.